A master of buffs, healing, and complete damage negation awaits you if you choose to develop your skills with Bravely Default's Spiritmaster. The Spiritmaster specializes in using their BP charges to deploy unbreakable walls of mitigation buffs, while also being able to fall back on healing when their actions aren't in dire need. Looking at the Spiritmaster's specialty, we have Save White Magic MP. This is sort of the counterpart to the Arcanist's Save Black Magic MP, though unlike the Arcanist, the Spiritmaster doesn't need to rely on white magic to function. It is best to think of this specialty as a bonus, as while you won't necessarily need to use white magic with the Spiritmaster, having this built-in discount when you do use it will always come in handy, no matter what situation. First up on the list of combat abilities are the multiple elemental mitigation skills at the Spiritmaster's disposal. All of these abilities reduce or outright mitigate any incoming elemental damage that could threaten your party. Spirit Ward will nullify all elemental damage for a single target for 5 turns, with its partner, Greater Spirit Ward, which while only reduces incoming elemental damage, will be applied to all allies. Adaptation will allow for the target to absorb incoming elemental attacks, which can be even better than damage negation in certain scenarios. Enigma is the strongest of these 4 skills, as it will nullify all elemental attacks for all party members, which can completely trivialize certain encounters. Note that any attack that has an element tied to it, even if it is also considered a physical attack, will be affected by these abilities, meaning that these skills are even stronger than one might expect upon first glance. The biggest thing to keep an eye out for when using almost all of these abilities is your Spiritmaster's BP, as especially Enigma and Greater Spirit Ward have deep costs that will need to be considered, especially if there isn't a reliable BP battery on your team. Second up is Fairy's Aid. For 1 BP charge, the Spiritmaster can boost a party member's elemental attack potency by 50% for 5 turns. This is an excellent buff for jobs that use any form of elemental magic in their attacks, be it black magic, sword magic, or genome abilities. If your Spiritmaster has the BP to spare, you might consider throwing this on your attackers to help keep their damage as high and consistent as possible. Next up is Convert BP. This ability will have the user sacrifice 25% of their maximum HP in return for gaining 2 extra BP. This is the Spiritmaster's personal way of keeping their BP charges as high as possible, meaning you can moderate your own BP without a battery, though at the cost of a considerable amount of HP. Be cautious when using this ability, as to not put yourself in a situation where that extra 25% of health could mean life or death. I would suggest having a healing spell or item at the ready, especially since the Spiritmaster is quite frail in comparison to other jobs. Next is Stillness. For 2 turns, all damage dealt to enemies and allies is reduced to 0. The enemy can't hurt you, but you can't hurt them. Ailments can still be applied during this time, but poison damage will still be reduced to 0. Stillness has quite a lot of utility, though it is commonly used for either stalling fights to recover from near death, or as a means of giving your team time to buff themselves to strike once the Stillness barrier lowers. If prepared right, you can realistically have your entire party attack, then have your Spiritmaster use Stillness before the enemy attacks, and then spend the next full turn prepping to do it all again, making it almost impossible for any enemy to hurt you at all. As always though, keep an eye on your BP. Next up is Fairy Ward. This ability works similarly to Enigma, but instead of negating all elemental damage for a period of time, Fairy Ward negates all ailments. This can be a blessing in battles that have you dealing with multiple targets that can all apply their own ailment, as Fairy Ward will give a means of removing that issue entirely. Note that the Spiritmaster's buffs can all stack, meaning yes, you can have Fairy Ward and Enigma up at the same time, making your team almost impossible to hit outside of regular attacks. Finally, we come to Moderation. This ability balances BP for all enemies and allies, as it will reduce BP charges of those with +1 charges or more by 1, and will raise BP by 1 for those with -1 charges or more. Use Moderation to keep enemies who commonly default in check, while also rewarding your party for spending BP going into the negative. Since Moderation costs BP to use, Make sure you ensure the user of this ability will always be in the negative as to give them back 1 extra BP. It'll help lighten the load of this ability's cost. Taking a look at the Spiritmaster's support abilities, first up is Auto Shell. This allows the user to begin every combat encounter with an automatic 25% increase to their magic defense for 10 turns. Helpful for battles that focus on magic damage from the get-go, or if you just don't want to waste precious MP and BP to apply it manually. Second is Magic Defense 20% up. This ability does exactly what it says it does, so first determine whether or not you would need to run this ability on any party member. Magic defense in general is harder to increase compared to physical defense, so maybe just for that you could deem this worthy to slot on a character. I would suggest passing up on this support ability if you do have a Spiritmaster on your party though, since they oftentimes mitigate all elemental damage, rendering damage reduction less useful. Still useful, but less so. The Spiritmaster's specialty can work wonders on any team that would realistically see them using white magic in any serious way, like, well, a white mage, or a salve maker, or red mage. Any discount to your magic, especially healing magics, is always a boon, so don't write off the support ability immediately. Next up is Holy One. This ability will raise the user's recovery magic potency by 250% at the cost of lowering their physical attack power by 25%. Running this on a job that focuses purely on healing will see absolutely no drawbacks from this ability, since they will rarely, if ever, use their physical attacks in combat. If you plan on using both healing magic and physical attacks, perhaps avoid Holy One and opt for something like the Salve Maker's healing lore instead, since it won't lower your attack power. Still though, this ability is stupidly powerful, and is almost a must on any healer in your team. Finally is Maximize HP. During combat, and in combat only, the user's maximum HP will be doubled. Your HP will start at whatever value it was before beginning combat, so you will need to heal yourself if you desire to take advantage of the extra HP. The biggest benefit of Maximize HP is that it creates an incredibly powerful safeguard for anyone who uses it, as the most amount of damage an enemy can do to your party is 9,999. If a user's maximum HP is raised above that number, no one attack in the game can kill you outright. Slap this ability on fragile healers to give them a bit more meat on their bones, or give it to beefy tanks so that they can become even more difficult to take down. One last thing I do want to note though, is that Maximize HP counts as a buff, meaning dying or being hit by any attacks that remove all buffs will erase the effects of Maximize HP entirely. Be cautious of this. So let's take a look at the Spiritmaster as a main job. I don't think I need to tell you that this job is really, really good. The various buffs and mitigations that the job offers allows the players to pretty much never take a single hit of damage ever again, as long as the Spiritmaster's BP is handled correctly. Certain setups with stillness or moderation can completely shut down any move an opponent tries to make, while setting your team up for absolute success. Don't forget the built-in white magic discount and excellent intelligence stats, making the Spiritmaster a capable healer and magic damage dealer if it comes down to it. Honestly, the biggest problem I have with the Spiritmaster job is that they just don't get their super good abilities until they are much higher level, and even stillness, which you get pretty quick, cannot be used at its best until later on. This can sort of make the job feel clunky to use in the early levels, though it isn't really that big of a deal if you only begin investing into the job in the later portions of the game, since JP is easy to come by then. Spiritmaster as a sub-job works well with, well, pretty much everything, especially since the job's abilities don't scale off of any one stat. This allows the Spiritmaster's skills to mold well into any party build, making it almost impossible to not have one on your team. Even certain skills like BP Convert could see better use on attack jobs, since losing HP might not be as big of a risk for them, allowing them to reap the rewards with no drawbacks whatsoever. Though, you will miss out on the built-in white magic discount, and certain jobs might be either too fast or slow to apply buffs when you want them to. So you will need to keep that in mind when outfitting a Spiritmaster in your party. Fashion tier list time, so as always, let's take a look at the boys first. Tiz and Ringabel land themselves a pretty solid design here, with a white robe almost always being a win in my book. The added glasses, red tie, and suit give the Spiritmaster that professional, yet mad scientist look I just adore. A very good design that, while not landing itself in S tier per se, will land happily in A tier. Every opinion I just shared about the boys' outfits transfers over to the girls' well, just with 2 added positives. 1, the girls not only get cute glasses, but they also get an added bow in their hair, which, while not a crazy addition, does brighten my day. But the best addition made to this outfit has to be the gloves. Every time I see those big, bright red gloves, I am reminded of everyone's favorite German medic from a certain team shooter. Those who know, know. And just for that though, the ladies land themselves a higher spot in A tier.